Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
I think Daniel Jeremiah say this. You must pay fealty to Kirk Cousins. You must. And the team that currently fields Kirk Cousins, the Minnesota Vikings, should be knocking on the door of Kyle Shanahan and say, you saw something in this guy. We definitely should see something in this guy. And Kevin O'Connell comes from the Rams and McVay and the whole system back in the day in Washington when Shanahan was coaching Kirk Cousins. Maybe Trey Lance is that guy.
Reckless speculation.
You all laughed. You all laughed at Purple Daily. 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we started talking about this. This is just outlandish speculation. Shut it down. Must be a slow news day for Mackie,
I've only
Judd,
one thing
and
to
Declan.
say. After hearing that clip, here's what I have to say. Typical Rich Eisen.
Clickbait
Just
Rich
click-
Eisen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just try clickety-click, Rich.
Clickety, click, click.
Dude, Adam Shine was doing it yesterday, too.
Oh, shine on sports.
Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings.
Coming up next, which quarterback should be on the move? Hint, he's from the Midwest.
I used to listen to Adam Shine. This is probably 15 years ago now. He used to host the Sunday morning, the 3 or 4 hour Sunday morning pregame show. And you probably were the same. I had Sirius XM, and I would listen on my way to cover a Vikings game on Sunday.
Yep.
And he was just running calls. We're going to go out to Philadelphia now. Let's go to whoever was on the phone, right? You know, let's go to Wally in Philly. What do you think about your Philadelphia football Eagles today?
And then the dude would get on and not shut up, right?
Yeah.
The East Coast callers are... The
He's
East
like,
Coast callers, you literally always have to cut them off because they won't shut up, like the Giants callers.
It's Shine on Sports.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super talented guy. I'm not trying to rip him, but it is funny that now everyone's talking about Niners and Vikings and Trey Lance and Kirk Cousins. And on this Feedback Friday here, we are going to get to a lot of quarterback speculation. I was just telling you guys off mic. I would say, and every week on Feedback Friday across both Purple Daily and Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd, we try to sift through as many questions, comments, concerns, critiques. The best way to hit us up is through the Score North app, by the way, the feedback tab. And I would say, as I was collecting stuff from you guys, the audience, at least 50%, probably closer to like 60, 70% of all of the emails and comments that came through our app this week were quarterback and or speculation related in that regard. So we're going to get to some of those because it's what you guys clearly want to keep talking about, and it's very interesting time for the Vikings quarterback position. But the show is presented by our friends at TCL, now an official partner of the National Football League. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, home appliances. Somebody emailed in and wanted me to do the Tim the Toolman Taylor grunt after these TCL reads.
Well, that's a callback.
It's a great show.
Now.
90s sitcom.
Yep.
TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Learn more at TCL.com. So the first question, we should just hit the chimes at random
All the
moments
time.
throughout every show up until the draft.
ESPN NFL Live just played it like in passing yesterday, and I was like, wait, is that Purple Daily?
Oh,
Like
there's a mock
now
draft.
it's
Okay.
now it's so ingrained in my brain. I'm like, is Purple Daily playing now? It's in my head all over the place.
So I heard, I think it was the 5 o'clock Sports Center last night. They played those chimes, and the person said, hey, you know, a week from now when you hear those chimes, it's going to mean a pick is upcoming. But when you hear them now, and I'm not joking, you guys, she said, you know it's time for speculation.
What? Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
I see
time
how it
for
is.
Speculation.
I see how it is.
Well, I wonder where that started.
First they laugh, and then they copy. Yes.
And then they come for your bits.
All right, Jeffrey Holler said, I listened to yesterday's podcast about Trey Lance and the Vikings potentially trading Kirk Cousins to the 49ers, and an awful thought crept into my head that I wanted to share with you.
Uh-oh.
Like many of you on the podcast, I have never deeply believed that Kirk Cousins will lead the Vikings to a Super Bowl. I just don't see it. I've verbalized on several Vikings Facebook groups, always getting pummeled by some Kirk Crusaders. My point I want to make is this. The 49ers are definitely more ready to win a Super Bowl right now than the Vikings. You guys have covered that fact. Can you imagine the blowback all of us Kirk doubters are going to get if he does go to San Francisco and does win a Super Bowl? The Cousins Crusaders will come out in droves, and I think it will be painfully hilarious for all of us. It should provide truckloads full of daily feedback, and I look forward to it. What if we sift through all of the speculative smoke here and eventually the most obvious trade in football history gets consummated at some point before training camp?
Yep.
And then Kirk winds up being the final piece to a 49ers puzzle, a consistent, good, accurate quarterback to drive that car, and they win a Super Bowl. What will your thoughts be the day after on this show?
First of all, more power to them. Second of all, I'll be surprised. I still don't think. See, here's the thing. I think he is the perfect fit, but once he gets there, I don't care. So like I am not saying he's going to go there and win a Super Bowl. I am saying in their mind, I'm trying to put myself in the head of Johnny Lynch, of Kyle Shanahan. I'm trying to get inside their skull, knock around a little bit, and think how they're thinking, which in their minds is not going to be, well, if we get Kirk Cousins, we ain't going to win. That's not how they're going to think, right? So it's my personal opinion that they are not going to win a Super Bowl with him. But is he going to, in their minds, justify the best chance to? Absolutely. And that's all I'm concerned about. It's like dropping your kid off at school. Once you drop your kid off, you have great faith that the adults will handle your kid just fine. I'm just trying to drop Kirk off.
Sounds like you're dropping your kid off thinking, well, no matter who the teachers are, my kid isn't capable of doing well in school.
My kid's going to get a D, but you know what? It's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. I'm done right now. So anyway, but that point is a great point. It would, at that point in time, it could cause some hilarious feedback.
It'd be pretty funny, and if he goes to San Francisco with a ready-made roster and he does it, like, well, the 49ers are a better team than the Vikings. So it wouldn't be completely shocking. And, the Vikings brought in Kirk and obviously 18 and 19 as a pretty much ready-made team, right? That was the goal. That was the goal. The Vikings were set up as the 49ers 6 years ago as, hey, you went to the NFC title game with a fringe quarterback that shouldn't have even been there. Run it back, right? Run it back with a superior quarterback. It didn't work. You stumbled a little bit. But I would say if people see Vikings, you could have had this. Like, well, are you Vikings fans or are you Kirk fans? Because if you're Kirk fans, that's fine if you want to be a Kirk fan. But that's where you have to kind of parse apart of, are you rooting for the Vikings failure or are you rooting for Kirk Cousins? Which one is it?
This isn't. There's like I don't know. There's like a weird bin of Cousins fans that couldn't care less about the Vikings, and I feel like all of them show up in my Twitter mentions on a daily basis. And I got a tweet from someone this morning, like, tell me how your logic makes sense. You don't think Kirk can win a Super Bowl for the Vikings, yet you think he's the final piece to the puzzle for the Niners? Like, this isn't hard, okay? The Niners have a Super Bowl roster right now. The Vikings have some good pieces, but let's be honest, right? They're rebuilding a defense. They do have some questions along the offensive line. They are looking for a number 2 wide receiver. Like there's the Vikings aren't a garbage roster, but they're not the San Francisco roster. So San Francisco has one opening left, and it's quarterback. It's just like Declan said. It is 5-6 years ago in Minnesota. All right, we got the number 1 defense in the NFL. We have Thielen, we have Diggs, we have Dalvin Cook. Offensive line was a little questionable. We just need a more steady, reliable option at quarterback. We don't trust Case Keenum to carry this thing over outside of one magic carpet ride season. The first time Kirk sat in this position, he failed. He came up short in big spots in fourth quarters. They missed the playoffs. And then the second year, they got smoked by San Francisco. So the Vikings tried to do it with Kirk. It failed. The Niners might try to do it with Kirk. And we'll see. I actually think he's a better quarterback now than he was when the Vikings signed him back in 2018. So the Niners will be getting a better version of a car driver than the Vikings did in 2018. So it wouldn't entirely shock me if this was the perfect situation for him. But you can't really move forward at this point as you kind of rebuild and retool your roster with a guy that takes up that much money. And the other thing too, I've even seen this in some like credible publications. Well, the cap ramifications make it hard to trade Kirk Cousins. Well, not for the Niners. The Niners would take on his $10 million base salary and then whatever else they want to do in future seasons. So it's really not that hard. It's actually pretty easy to trade him to the Niners from a cap standpoint.
So that was a tweet from Jason at Over the Cap, right? That he put out, I think verbatim, that a draft night trade or a draft trade of Kirk is tough because it would
for the Vikings
accelerate
would have to,
the salary cap. Okay, here's the flaw. No one's saying it has to be a draft trade because here's the thing: San Francisco has no first round pick. Like let's say you want a conditional first round pick. The trade would actually come after the draft. There's no rule that says Kirk Cousins' potential and its potential, and just to be clear again, I think he's starting for the Vikings on opening day. But there is nothing that says that Kirk Cousins' trade has to be made linked to the next quarterback immediately. And by that, it doesn't have to happen. I'll give you a perfect example. It's looking more and more like the Aaron Rodgers trade isn't going to happen on draft night, and they very well might get past the draft. It will likely still be made, but like we're falling too deep into this. Well, if it doesn't happen next weekend, it's not happening. What's going on? Our pets' heads are falling off. That's not how this is gonna. That's not how this works. And again, keep in mind the Vikings are run by very different people now. This is not Rick Spielman black and white. If we don't do this now, we're going to. This is run by guys who are. I would say this. They have more expanded minds about possibilities. How about that, for fairness?
And you know what? If Kirk wins a Super Bowl in San Francisco, awesome. It doesn't. The only thing it really means in terms of the scoreboard here for Cousins, Crusaders, and haters, and Vikings, and Niners, whatever, is that, okay, yeah, if given the right car, he can drive it to a Super Bowl, which is what the Vikings thought was the case in 2018 and 19. And then the car started to erode over time. His contract became problematic. It becomes hard to build a car around that big contract as you're retooling on the fly, and the timing was just off. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. And by the way, the Niners aren't thinking sort of in a black and white way, he can or can't win us a Super Bowl. They're saying, boy, we've been knocking on the door of a Super Bowl with guys like Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. So let's just get better and more consistent and healthier at that position and see what happens. Let's give ourselves a better chance. Not a guaranteed chance, but a better chance.
They're staring down the possibility right now of Sam Darnold starting.
Yeah, there's no way.
How does that make you feel?
No way.
How does that make you feel? Sam Darnold might start for you, okay? I'll take Kirk too in that case.
Yeah. All right, DL Urbas chimes in here via the Score North app. Some reckless speculation for you guys. And Cousins Crusaders beware.
Oh, no.
Vikings trade up to number 3 and get Stroud. Kirk traded to the Niners for a couple of thirds. So he's saying this year. And by the way, we've already decided our Saturday checkdown episode is going to be kind of a wonky look at the timing of if they were to trade Danielle Hunter, if they were to trade Kirk Cousins before, after the draft, before, after June 1st, and kind of what that means and what's possible. But this scenario he paints is Vikings trade up to 3 for Stroud. Kirk goes to the Niners for 2/3 and a second in 2024. San Francisco re-signs Kirk to a 3-year contract to lock him in. Kirk takes San Francisco to the NFC Championship game, and then Kirk checks down at the end of the game and the last play, and the Niners lose by 3 points. He's never been to an NFC Championship game, so that would be a career highlight step for him if he could do that.
And he's joking around, sort of, but he's not. Like, that does bring up a very... I know people get upset about this, but just quickly, the reality is this. At the end of Kirk's greatest season from a win standpoint and from a standpoint of running the team, okay? So not stats, but I mean, we have denigrated Kirk's stats to the point of it's very clear that this show does not focus solely on Kirk's stats. But at the end of this season, in which he and his coach really did a marvelous job in a lot of things, he did check down. So, like, he's kidding, but he's not.
No, yeah, it's definitely
so like
the thing that people remember from the season.
Yeah, so what's to stop? Like, is Kyle Shanahan going to get him not to?
We'll find out.
I mean, KOC did a pretty damn good job. Got to give him credit.
Mm-hmm. Bad Dad Joke chimes in here and says, I don't get the fascination with Hendon Hooker at 23. The guy is a 25-year-old jugs machine with a torn ACL who ran a Mickey Mouse offense in college. You can find guys like that on day 3. Change my mind. I think you're seeing even we did a lot of Hendon Hooker stuff a week or two ago, and we did an episode with Thor. You're seeing even more steam now that we saw a mock draft yesterday. Was it Schrager? Schrager has him 11th to the Titans before Will Levis.
So on the Purple Access show that we did with Tyler Fornes that you can find yesterday, I asked him that question. I said, where do you think, because he studies the draft basically on a 24/7 basis. And I said, where do you think this is coming from? Like, is this from teams? Like what? And he said, and it's a very good point, he said Hendon Hooker is represented by CAA Sports, Creative Arts Agency, which is incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. And he said, I think that they have, if you look at where these originate, like where does it originate? Hendon Hooker. He said it's a lot of people who are tied in there.
Like media people that have CAA as
an agent or something. A lot of people with agendas that could be helped if CAA, which represents a ton of athletes across platforms, if they help them. Because I mean, it started somewhere. Like it was a cigarette thrown out into the bushes driving down the highway at 65 or 70
now it's a
miles
wildfire
per hour, and it caught fire. So like that was my question. Because this stuff doesn't just start arbitrarily, and it's not just like, man, you know what we missed out on? I just watched some Hendon Hooker tape, and hey Ted, come here, watch this tape. Oh my God, top 10 pick. Like,
well, he also has the stamp of approval from the Manning family too, right? Because Tennessee, Peyton Manning, I think he's made appearances at the Manning camp, so he's got the guiding hand of the first family of football.
Yeah.
So there's some agency push. It's not to say he can't be a really good quarterback, but we've seen him now climb from third, fourth round guy because of his age and the system and stuff and the injury to being 11th overall, Peter Schrager.
I keep coming back to one guy last year, Malik Willis. We were going through these mocks and the same thing, and it's like, really? He's that good? And he fell to what, the 3rd round of the Titans?
Yep. And of course, now it's been 1 year of Malik Willis, and I would argue that that's not the best organization. A defensive-minded coach, I don't know that he's in the best situation there. And people have already written him off. I don't think you can write him off as a bust yet. I think you need another year or two and maybe a change of scenery. But Darren M. chimes in, says, okay, boys, a question for you to agonize over, as me and my family did the other night. Maybe it's an easy one for you. It wasn't for us. Would you be okay with the Vikings winning the Super Bowl next year if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback? He would go down in Vikings lore as the only quarterback to win a Super Bowl. They might retire his number based on one season because he's a Hall of Famer. Packer fans would shove it in our face that we could only win it with a Packer great. I don't know. I know the motto is win one before we die, but would fans be able to enjoy it while watching Aaron Rodgers?
So does this I don't know the age of the person who wrote this, but do they not recall 2009 and the exact scenario?
Oh, we would have popped so hard for that.
So the answer is bring me the Lombardi. I don't care how you do it.
Yeah. Yep. And on the far front too, because there was I heard the same chirping from Packers fans that because the Vikings were the best team and probably would have won the Super Bowl if Favre didn't sabotage it in the last few seconds or 12th man on the field, whatever. But Packer fans would have said the same thing, right? You could only win it with Favre. And we would have said, well, it took 1 year for the Vikings to win one with Favre. You had Favre for 15 years and only won one.
Yeah.
So who cares?
I've always asked this question. If it had been different. And it is very plausible to talk about this, okay? So, it's not, they wouldn't have won it. No, they could have. What would have happened to Favre's potential legacy in Green Bay? And would number 4 be retired in US Bank Stadium right now?
Oh my God, these are great questions. I do think Favre goes in the Ring of Honor. I don't know that his number gets retired, but I think he goes in the Ring of Honor.
I think I agree with you.
It'd be a Jack Morris situation. Although Jack Morris was local St. Paul kid, right?
No, I think you nailed it.
But he goes Ring of Honor. I don't know. The Packers ceremonies because they retired his number in Green Bay, right? Or the Packers Ring of Honor, whatever it was.
Yep. No.
That doesn't happen nearly as quickly as it did. And it might not have happened yet because it was the ultimate betrayal, and Packer fans burned his jersey and they would send photos and videos out of burning Favre's jersey, but they got over it very quickly because the Vikings lost in the NFC Championship game.
Correct.
If they don't and they win the Super Bowl, Packer fans probably just dismiss Favre forever.
So, and what took place with Favre, I think now, in retrospect, one, it immediately, of course, came unglued in 2010. But, I think it qualifies as a Vikings one-night stand, right? Like, it was fun. It was, but if he wins a Super Bowl, I think we claim him.
Oh, absolutely. I claim
100%.
him. Well, I don't know. He's gotten kind of weird, and he's like stealing money
Yeah.
from charities
I think
in
we would've
Mississippi. I don't claim him anymore, but I claim him as a Viking. Still.
And he walks
Yes.
away, too. That's the thing, too. He doesn't come back. If they win a Super Bowl, 2010 never happens with Brett Favre, so that's all gone.
Yes, he goes John Elway, basically rides off into the sunset. Okay, let's see here. What else we got?
Great question. Love it.
Well, actually, here's one. Ben Peterson said, "Love the latest episode going down memory lane about previous Vikings draft picks. It'd be fun to hear you guys talk about the 2009 Vikings and reminisce about the last time we were actually a Super Bowl contender. I mean, Brett Favre, Bountygate, Adrian Peterson fumbling a bunch in that game, Favre throwing a pick when he easily could have ran for the first down. I know I would enjoy hearing you guys talk about it. I will say this, cheap plug, if you haven't listened already, a few years ago, and it's on if you go to the Purple Daily YouTube channel, we have a section it's like Purple Rewind or Purple Vault it's one of the playlists at the bottom of the homepage on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We did 2 hours with Sage Rosenfels, who was the backup to Favre that year. Stories from behind the scenes, anecdotes from the locker room during that season, and it's excellent. So if you want like an inside look in a long form sit down, check that episode out on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. But yeah, 2017 they were definitely Super Bowl contenders to some extent, but the last time it felt like the Vikings had the best team in the NFL was 2009. It's been a decade and a half ago, the last time we felt like this is the best team in the NFL.
Absolutely, yeah. Because 17, keep in mind, okay, magic carpet ride, of course, but Keenum was never like we didn't say, oh, good, Sammy Bradford's hurt. What's next? I think, and they did lose, if I'm not mistaken, they lost in Pittsburgh with Keenum starting his first game. And as I recall, we all thought season's done, they're screwed. Because Bradford, and at that time too, I think we thought Bradford would come back, which he did for like a Halloween game in Chicago, and it was completely
bad. It was bad.
But the point is, 17 had a lot go wrong there. 09 was, oh my God, as Favre said, the pieces are in place. He got here and it was go time. So yes, that was 09 was a completely different feeling. 17 was fun. 09 was like expectation central.
Yeah, and obviously the Greg Lewis play was the first moment where you're like, oh, this is for real. Like, because even those first few games of Favre, it was, is he a passenger here? Is he just going to be the guy handing off to AP who's entering year 3? Is this going to be? Does he have anything left in this dang arm? Yeah. And that play happened, and then that entire year, I mean, that Cowboys game, which actually I had to listen to on the radio because I was on a huge school trip going up north, was just a complete ass kicking in the divisional round.
It's like 34-3 or something.
In terms of Minnesota playoff games, which are always, oh God, what's going to happen? Are we going to blow this? Are we going to even be able to do it? Ass kicking from start to finish. And it was awesome. And everyone was picking the Cowboys going into that game because Tony Romo finally got a playoff win. And, oh, here comes Dallas. Here comes Tony and Romo on the Dallas. No, absolute butt kicking. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing that it was 14 years ago now, too. Just kind of sports time just kind of flies.
Just wait, time flies. It gets worse, boys. It gets worse.
Judd's like 5 minutes ago. I was drinking.
30, I was 36.
I was at Hubert's across from the Metrodome.
Yeah. No, time does. It's nuts. But yeah, 2009 and 2017 were polar opposites, I think, in feeling.
Yeah, 2017 in the back of your head, you kind of knew it was a house of cards. Right?
Well, you knew Case was for sure.
Yep. The defense wasn't, but you're always kind of worried about, all right, if they face the Patriots in the Super Bowl or if they have to go into Philadelphia, is it really a steady situation or not? Okay, Matt Dench, another comment from a global Purple Daily listener / viewer. Nice. Matt Dench says, I have an experience to share for Feedback Friday. I was coming back from vacation through border control in London last month. And the border officer looked me up and down, noticed a Vikings logo on my sweater, and said that he too was a fan of the Vikings. So you got Matt crossing the border, London, and you've got a very serious border patrol officer, both Vikings fans. Okay. I asked him if he watched Purple Daily, and in a real serious tone, he said he was protecting the border and didn't have time for any small talk. Sorry, Mr. Patrol Officer.
They're very serious there. He probably had the big hat on, too, like they do in front of the palace.
He then asked me to lean in, and he whispered, "Before we die," before gesturing me to move on and shouting, "Next," for the person behind me to step up. As I walked off, I could see him laughing to himself. The message of Purple Daily is truly global.
Wow.
That is an awesome story. It's a little creepy, but it's an awesome story.
Before we die. Next.
Are you sure he didn't say you're going to die?
I thought he was gonna pull him in. Why don't you lean in for a second here?
Oh, and then
Pulls out a flag.
Get the flag out.
John, where's the flag? What are you doing?
I had to get it.
What are you doing, guy?
He didn't warn me. All right, here we go.
Warn you.
You should have that thing in your hand.
Yeah, you are contractually obligated to have that flag ready.
This will be appearing a week from Thursday, too, so we can wave the flag at Park Tavern.
I'm glad you brought that up because we are less than a week away from the second annual draft party, the Surly Park Tavern draft party. Purple Daily will be there. We'll be in the house, streaming live on YouTube starting at 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock, the doors open for this event. And, so last year the Vikings traded back 20 slots to the last pick in the first round, and people were outside in freezing rain and wind.
Yeah.
Just hundreds of Vikings fans at the event last year. It was a blast. We hope that they stay in the first round. It'd be fun if they traded up and made it a celebration early on. But whatever they do, we're going to be hanging out. We're looking forward to meeting as many of you as possible. So, yeah, let us know. Shoot us a tweet or something. Just let us know if you're going to be there so we can be on the lookout and cheers one of these. I saw the new Before I Die cans.
Did you like that can, huh?
Pretty badass.
That's a nice can. That's a really nice can.
Show us your cans in person. Be very exciting. And by the way, no cover charge. You just show up. Just show up. It's indoors.
Really?
Yes. You don't have to pay $175 to hang out with the talent.
To sit with the talent?
Purple Daily is a show of the people, for the people, by the people.
I'll sign for free. You know what? I'll sign for free. My really bad signature, it'll be free for you.
Jub will sign body parts, I think is what he's saying. Also, a shout out to our friends at Athletic Greens. So about 6 years ago, old Macadac discovered Athletic Greens products, and it's added a ton of value to my life. AG1 specifically is like nutritional insurance to start your day, or maybe in the middle of your day to boost your day. One scoop mixed with a bottle of water, you got your full allotment of nutrients for the day. 75 high-quality ingredients that give me important daily nutrients, whether it's first thing in the morning or sometimes middle of the day, if you're looking to fend off brain fog, heighten your energy levels. Also helps with my gut health, supports my immune system, so I'm ready to unleash football takes on Purple Daily. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/purple daily. athleticgreens.com/purple daily. And just in general, thank you to everyone who supports our partners. It's what keeps this show going 365 days a year. So people ask, what's the best way that I can support you guys? And we always say, if you support our partners, you are supporting us and keeping this thing on the tracks and growing. So athleticgreens.com/purple daily. I have a mock for you, actually.
Oh, boy.
If you're down to mock, if you're DTM.
I want a mock. We're less than a week away. Damn right.
So this one, dude, NFL Network is just rolling out a cavalry of mockers here.
Let's just keep playing it.
Maurice Jones.
Don't.
I kind of like the chimes.
I do like them once in a while.
I might change my ringtone to the draft chimes.
Remember how I said the draft sounder was removed from the board or from like my little button bar for the audience? I have a button bar with a bunch of sounders on it. Well, the draft thing was replaced, but it was in the place of the old bed spot. So my muscle memory automatically clicks this bottom third thing. And now that's the draft chimes, where for the last 4 years in this chair, it's been the NFL bed. So now I have to just get used to it being one place to the right. It's a Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's a whole thing. I'm trying my best.
We should go and shuffle around. So Declan thinks he's going to hit the Vikings horn, and instead it's like The Rock.
Yeah.
So Maurice Jones-Drew, former NFL running back, has chimed in with his 1.0 mock draft on NFL.com. All right, I have not looked through this yet. I'm going to go through this in real time with all of you. Oh, my God. He has the Carolina Panthers drafting Anthony Richardson with the number 1 overall pick.
MJD.
Let's go.
Good for him.
Amazing.
He chooses chaos. I like this.
And then he's got the Texans drafting C.J. Stroud and the Colts trading up to 3 to nab Bryce Young.
Okay.
Cardinals taking Tyree Wilson. Will Anderson Jr. falling to the Seahawks, which would be great for them. Jalen Carter, Lions. Okay, there's Will Levis, 11th to the Titans. Jackson Smith in Jigba. We got Bijan Robinson, 10th to the Eagles. In Jigba to the Texans, first receiver off the board. Zay Flowers, 15 to the Packers, the second receiver off the board. Bunch of cornerbacks here. And then we get, there's Jordan Addison, 22nd to the Ravens. And then, according to Maurice Jones-Drew, NFL.com, the Minnesota Vikings, with the 23rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, select out of the University of Tennessee quarterback, Hendon Hooker.
I want a mock.
Hooker gets a redshirt year to get completely healthy and learn behind Kirk Cousins before becoming QB1 and leading Kevin O'Connell's offense.
I don't see it, so I just don't see it.
Everyone else seems to see it.
I don't see it.
Everyone else seems to see it.
Here's a question for you boys. If the Vikings decide, let's say they trade back in the first round, accumulate some extra picks. Let's say at the end of the day, they don't take a quarterback, okay? And let's say that this is correct and Tennessee takes Levis. Would you guys put a flyer in on Malik Willis?
Yes.
And I'm just talking flyer.
Not a big. I would take it.
No.
It's the type of trade Quasey would make. Yes.
Yeah.
But Kevin O'Connell values accuracy over all other quarterback traits.
Yeah.
So you got to be a little careful about if there's some accuracy questions with Malik Willis.
Yep.
But it is the type of trade. Just like Trey Lance. Trey Lance is. I would actually argue. If you don't get a quarterback in the first round, if it doesn't play out to where it makes sense for them to trade up or if the draft falls a certain way, I think it makes it, they could draft a McKee or something, a Tanner McKee in the middle rounds. But I think in terms of who succeeds Kirk Cousins, CJ Stroud and that bin of guys is option number 1. But it's unlikely, right? Unless you make a huge move. I think option number 2 is Trey Lance. I'm not reporting that. I'm just saying, read the tea leaves here. They've already had discussions. Mm-hmm. I think they'd probably rather just get 5 years of a young quarterback if they could versus 3 years of Trey Lance and the capital you'd have to give up. And then I think option 3 is take a flyer in the 3rd round or 4th round on a guy that may or may not have a chance, but then have a plan ready for 2024.
See, I think that you put it perfectly, though. I think what they're doing is I think they're creating bins. So, that's a perfect comp, okay? So, I think Trey Lance, to what you're saying, very well could be in bin 2, but it's a bin, so he's not alone there.
Yeah.
See, I see these guys as putting together scenarios and options that don't include just one thing. Like we got to go get that guy or else, right? So, in bin 2 would be Trey Lance, but it would be more than Trey Lance. And it might be, let's just say that the Vikings, and I don't think that this is the case, but let's say the Vikings like Hooker a lot. He's still in bin 2. He's not in bin 1. So that's the difference is I think what they're doing is I think they're creating potential chips and they're putting them into the bins and then to see how things play out. And keep in mind, too, I'm also convinced that if it doesn't work, it's not like this devastating Christian Ponder, Teddy's hurt, what are we going to do? We're screwed. Like, I think the philosophy here, the one thing that we're going to have to get used to with Kwesi and this entire staff, I think the philosophy of how you approach personnel moves is going to be incredibly different than what we're used to. And I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work because I don't know for sure. It's just pure speculation at this point on my part.
I think I would be surprised if they took the 5th quarterback off the board in the first round. I just don't know that that's, if you start to stack up the value, is that the most valuable thing you can do? Or have you decided, well, you know, we have to reach a little bit here because even though we have him as a 2nd or 3rd round grade, we need the 5th year option, and it's the most important position that we can fill in the next 2 or 3 years.
But I think in the world that we're talking about here, I think what you do then, because again, I don't think you're wedded here. I don't think you are like, we're going to go get Hooker, and if we don't, we are screwed. I think what you would do in their world is do actually what Spielman did with Teddy, which is I think you would trade back in the first round, accumulate more picks, and then gamble that Hooker's going to be there for your pick. So I guess I would be very, very surprised if the Vikings took Hooker at 23 right now. Would I be shocked if they took him towards the back end of the first round after trading? Probably not.
Okay, well, let's actually go through this exercise real quick. So you're sitting at 23. Let's say you stand pat with the idea that maybe you trade back. And Hendon Hooker is still on the board at 23. And you're not going to just straight up take him because you feel like you need more value than that. But you would be willing, like you said, to trade back, pick up an extra 3rd round pick or something. And so you're getting Hooker and a 3rd round pick as opposed to just Hooker being the only thing you do in the first 87 picks, all right?
Correct.
How far down the list would you have to go until, like behind the Vikings, until a team would snipe Hooker from you? Let's just go through, like, do any of these teams need a starting quarterback in the next year or two?
Okay.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have the next pick. It's a no. The New York Giants, I would argue they need a quarterback, but they just signed Daniel Jones to a huge contract. They're not drafting a quarterback. The Dallas Cowboys at 26. You know, they've got Dak Prescott. The Bills at 27.
Nope.
They got Josh Allen. The Bengals at 28. They got Joe Burrow. The Saints at 29 are the first team, I would say, unless I'm missing something here, that could take a quarterback. So you've got like 5 picks to play with here. Let's say you move back from 23 to, you know, maybe the Bills or the Bengals want to move up because there's a defensive player or something, right? An offensive, whatever it is. What could you get? We'd have to look at the draft pick value chart. If you move back 5 spots with no danger of Hendon Hooker coming in, unless a team then trade, let's say you move back to 28 with the Bengals and then someone else jumps you at 26, like that type of thing could happen too.
Right.
So yeah, interesting.
But that's the market, right? So like if these picks, which in Kwesi's world I think they are stocks, that's the market, right? To take a chance there, to gamble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you're trying to outdo a team that might say, screw it, we're going to go 1 pick before you. That's my point is I think the philosophy is going to be incredibly different than what we become used to. Because I don't think the philosophy is the old school football one, which is we got to stand pat. Or how can we, I don't think it's so much how can we outsmart the opponent as what's the percentages here.
Mm-hmm. I got one more for you guys here, and then we'll wrap this episode. Cortland asks, what Vikings draft pick historically had you excited the most but ultimately severely disappointed you?
Dex?
Probably Treadwell.
Oh, LaQuantasaurus Rex.
You know, wide receiver. You get enamored with skill position guys. Like Matt Khalil was a good offensive tackle his rookie year, but like even though he fizzled out and wasn't that good, like it wasn't massively disappointing because he's an offensive tackle. But I would probably say skill position guys. So for me, probably Treadwell.
I thought you were going to say John David Booty.
Well, yeah, there's Greg Childs and John David Booties and plenty of other random other ones. But come on. I knew they had a long shot of making the Vikings roster, but in terms of actual ones, I would say Laquan Treadwell.
I would probably say, I mean, the most obvious in-your-face pick is Ponder, but I would probably say Khalil because he was going to be a 10-year left tackle which is, I mean, we've discussed this before. That is one of the most important positions on your offense, provided that you have a right-handed quarterback. And he got off to such a good start. I mean, he was, I believe, a Pro Bowl alternate as a rookie. And I mean, that looked like, that at that point in time, looked like Darrisaw does now, which is, oh my God, this guy's going to be here for 10 years. The position's taken care of. No more chasing the Riley Reefs, which of course you had to. So I would say that Matt Khalil, given where he went in the draft he went, probably tops my list since 2000.
For me, it's Toby Gerhart.
Oh, God.
They drafted him in the second round in 2010, and he was one of the best college football players in the country at Stanford in 2009. He ran for almost 1,900 yards his senior year at Stanford and 28 touchdowns. Think about that.
Yeah.
5.5 yards a carry. He also carried the ball 343 times in 13 games his last year at Stanford. And so probably a bad sign for his health going forward. And it turns out he was completely cooked upon entering the NFL. But I really thought, but I think he was cooked. Like, how often in the NFL does a guy run for 350 carries in the last 20 years, and then that's pretty much the end of it, unless you're Derrick Henry. So, Toby Gerhart, disappointing. Thought he was going to do more in the league. So there's your Feedback Friday episode of Purple Daily here. Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. More Vikings-related feedback on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd, our other daily podcast today, too. So we'll see you over there. And we're going to try and break the Score North YouTube channel again tonight on this Friday, right?
Yep.
Wild and Wolves play at the same time. We're going to do simultaneous post-game streams, Flagrant Howls, and Judd's Hockey Show.
It worked.
At the same time. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. We had thousands of people hanging out with us last time a couple days ago, so we're going to do it again tonight and see what happens. A big night of sports in the Twin Cities. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you tomorrow on Purple Daily.